Hi, it's Brad from Aussie Zone, and I'm just going to go through some quick tips on keeping yourself protected online. So these are just some very quick ways to help give yourself an extra layer of protection. So on this screen here, I'm on the website whatu.info, and this will tell you a little bit about your browser and your computer. And this is just some of the basic information most websites will collect on their users. So here we can see it's saying I'm using an iPhone, and I'm using Safari browser. It's got my location as Sydney and longitude and latitude. Now, none of this information is actually correct, and the way that I'm tricking websites from believing that I'm using an iPhone instead of a desktop. So right now I'm actually on a Windows PC, and if I go to a website like Google, for example, you'll notice as soon as I type or click on the search bar, it changes the screen. And if I type in a query, is showing me the iPhone layout for the results. So what I'm doing here is using what they call a user agent switcher, and I'm running Canary at the moment, so it's a Google Chrome beta, and I'm using this plugin called User Agent Switcher. Now there are quite a few of these, and there are a few for different types of browsers. So if you're using Firefox, there'll be different ones for Firefox, the same as Safari. If you use Opera, Opera is a Chrome-based browser, so any Chrome extension will also work on Opera. So this is the one that I'm using at the moment. There are a few, so have a bit of a look and play and see what works best for you. But this just allows me to use the icon in the top right and set my browser to whatever function or whatever type I'd like it to appear. So I can make it look like I'm a Google bot. I can go back to a Windows PC if I like, or Chrome. This helps when you're exploring different websites. So any Aussie investigation, you look to explore websites, and some websites have different features for mobile users as opposed to desktop users. So this is another way to conveniently explore a website and find more information. So we'll set this to, say, Chrome on a Mac. So now when I go back to Google and I type in a search, it's staying to the desktop view. Another way to protect yourself a little bit online is to use an online browser. So Browserling is just one of them that's out there. There's also a company called authentic8.com. They also have some plans. This is a great free way to test, and they do have some plans here as well for pricing and API access. But this basically allows me to search the internet using a browser emulator. So if I type in a website, so let's just say carsales.com.au, I can set it to say Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows Vista if you're really desperate. Change the browser. So we'll stick to Internet Explorer 11 and we'll click Test Now. So this is actually loading a virtual machine online. Once this loads, we can now search the internet. So this allows me to go to websites that I wasn't quite sure on, or do some Google searches and click on links that I'm not quite sure on. And that is a hazard, a very common hazard with any skip tracing or Aussie investigation. You're going to be led to websites you're not sure on, you wouldn't normally visit in your everyday life. So searching those websites or viewing those websites on an online emulator like this gives you an extra layer of protection, because no malware is going to make it to your computer. It'll actually get stuck into this virtual machine here. Now, Browserling, this is just a free test tool, so it gives you about 3 minutes to view and do your searches. If you need more time, sign up for one of their plans. They are very cheap, and authentic8.com also have some very cheap plans. Now, if we go to, say, cars in Google, one myth out there is if you click on the drop-down arrow and view a cache of that website, it's going to give you some protection. That's not always the case. If we go back to the Google results and go to Inspect, we'll set it to Network, so we can start looking at all the connections that we're getting. So if I click on Car Sales, we can see all these connections. Let's go back to Cars Guide here, and let's click on the cache view. We can still see a lot of connections, and we're using cache view. One way around that, if we click on the URL and just modify that URL, so we'll say ampersand strip equals 1. Now when I reload this page, you'll see only one connection, and that's directly with the website. The view is a lot different now, so we've stripped all the other content, so all the images, everything has been stripped out except for the text. So this allows us a much safer way to browse the information on the website. So all we're doing is adding ampersand strip equals 1, and we can see these connections have dramatically dropped down. So there's a couple of very basic tips. There are also a lot more you can do out there. You can get a VPN, you can use Tor. There's a lot of extra things you can do to protect yourself online. These are just some very basic tips that anyone can do without going to any extremes.